Welcome to another episode of Ecom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of Ecom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. Today, I have Ashlee Anderson, the Director of Ecom and Performance Marketing at Rumpl. I'm so excited to have her here. I'm actually a big fan of the brand. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
So let's get started. Tell us about the brand and what it is.
Yeah, so Rumpl is a performance materials outdoor gear brand that focuses our more majority of our categories around blankets. And so we're really revolutionizing the outdoor blanket category. I mean, you can't take the blanket that you purchase that you use on your couch outside because it's going to get dirty. It's not durable. So we really revolutionized that. We use the same materials found in a puffy jacket. So it keeps you warm. It's also durable. And then a lot of our brand is founded on sustainability and durability. So we are partners with 1% for the Planet, climate neutral. We're also B Corp certified. And then most of our blankets are actually made from 100% recycled materials. So water bottles, which is awesome. So we are not only giving you things to go outdoors, but we're trying to make the outdoors a better place as well.
Oh, wow. That's so well said. So Ashlee, tell me about your role at the brand, how long you've been there, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I have been at Rumpl for about 2.5 years. I, as you noted, was the director of e-commerce and performance marketing. And my team is really focused on the e-commerce journey on Rumpl.com and Amazon, from the website to the paid advertising to the retention marketing. So we're really working to build a journey so that when you get a paid ad, you're following that same experience on Rumpl.com. And you're really able to learn about the brand and grow. Our website is kind of our centralization. So we really want people, whether they're at an REI or they're on Amazon, if they come to Rumpl.com, they can really learn about us and what we're working on and the awesome things that the brand is doing. So I kind of look at that entire ecosystem and strategy and how we're building that out.
Wow, that is a huge role. So it has a lot to cover. So what's your favorite part about the role?
My favorite part is really focusing on kind of what we talked about before. Like, I love how all of it works together. I feel like there's so much opportunity to a lot of people treat those things as silos, paid marketing as its own silo, paid search is just its own thing, retention marketing is its own thing. But the consumer doesn't see it that way. They really see it as your brand holistically. And so you have to be talking about those things effectively. A paid ad that's focused on top of funnel, we need to make sure we have an email capture that's set up to bring those consumers in. So that's what really excites me, is like tying the loose ends between those areas. It's much easier said than done. But it is really, that's, I think, what excites me the most. And then I'll give my second answer is the technology within the e-commerce space and marketing space is changing drastically every day, which is an excitement and a challenge, but there's so much more that you can do than you used to be able to do to really enhance that experience with your consumer.
Yeah, I love the conversation around the customer journey, because it used to be you could do an entire customer journey on Meta and it'd be fine, right? Like you do brand awareness and then consideration and conversion right through that. And that has changed so drastically now that you're like, okay, well, what does it look like in REI? And how do I make sure that that still is consistent throughout the entire journey, even as it comes through to conversion on our end? So I think that is we talked about it being like a puzzle, but like the puzzle keeps shifting and you're not really sure what it is. And so I think that's really cool. The technology side that you talked about, and I'm going to ask you, the $1 million question that everyone's asking right now is, does technology include AI? And if so, how are you guys using that?
Yeah, we've tested a bunch of different things with AI. So I think that anytime you're on LinkedIn, you'll see people talking about how you have to be using ChatGPT to change your business. And I do agree to an extent. I mean, we have been using it to, help build. We're a smaller company, we're a smaller team. And so like copywriting is a really interesting piece of ChatGPT. We also are utilizing a couple tools such as Stack Adapt, which has been kind of on the forefront of machine learning and AI for a while, to
Yep.
really build out display through contextual targeting. And then we have partnered in the past with kind of audience segmentation. So Black Crow is one that we've worked with. And then we're always on the forefront of like our CTV provider Mountain. They've launched a new AI predictive audience segment. And so we're always testing those things. I would say some of them work, some of them don't, some of them require additional things that aren't necessarily the status quo for what works for performance marketing. And so we're always changing, we're always adjusting. But we are, you know, AI is going to be part of the future. And so we're always looking into where we can test that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I feel like that is the big question mark in that it can do so much, but where can it do things better than what you're doing right now? And where can it do it faster too? And being a small team, I'm sure there's a lot of efficiency questions because you're probably making a lot of decisions around, hey, this would be a nice to do, but I've got this many priorities that I have to work on today. So have you seen AI unlock any of those things, or is it still too early to tell right now?
I'd say it's still too early to tell. Right now, it's really just making I think we are more tapping into the ability to target our audiences better, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily more efficient at this point. It's more
Okay,
just widening that gap. That's a really good question, though.
that's awesome.
I know if
Um,
you're at a bigger company, it's probably a little bit different because you have more data. And so I think it kind of depends at your level where you are.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So, if people have listened to this podcast before will hear I talk about this from time to time around. I think that like a brand historian is going to start to become a really important thing because the more data, the worst is when you look back and you go, oh man, what promotion did we run on this date? And like, what did we do at that time? Because if you as a person don't know it and you don't give it to AI, it's not going to do as well without all that information. So I think we'll start to see that data collection and historical knowledge becoming more and more valuable than ever before, for sure.
I like that. That is so true. I mean, we were just doing some forecasting recently and we were like, why was March higher? And it's that piece of like history that you can look at trends and be like, oh, well, I'm trending up, so I should forecast up. But maybe there was just some blip in the radar that you can't
Yeah.
necessarily predict in the future. So that is a very insightful idea. I don't know what that looks like, but
I have no idea what that looks like either. Yet I know it's important. So that's how it starts. That's also so I know you're a small team, really fast growing brand though. I'm sure that that leads to all kinds of challenges. So let's talk about what are like the biggest challenges you're dealing with. How are you overcoming them? How are you even just thinking about them?
yeah, I think the biggest challenges that we're kind of trying to overcome right now is around the paid space, especially with Meta and Google changing so drastically, and the cookieless world that's approaching us. And so we are really focused on how do we better, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but you used to be able to target very specific people on Meta and tell that full consumer journey, and you really can't as much anymore. And they're really, the Meta reps are really recommending run as broad as possible, let the creative do the targeting, and so it really is hard to kind of tell that entire storytelling. And so we're looking for innovative ways to kind of test that out. For our brand, we have a pretty decent return rate for our past consumers. And so we're actually trying to figure out the best way to talk to our past consumers a little bit different than new consumers, utilizing Meta, utilizing Google, in the audience data, that data that we can, while also giving, Facebook, Meta enough data to optimize on. That's a big challenge for us right now is like, how do we take those audiences, take those learnings and really grow them out? And we are also, the cookieless world, as I noted, is approaching. And so we're trying to think about how we're going to impact that. And first party data is going to become very, very important. And so the
Yeah.
retention team is actually kind of like at the forefront of this fight. And so it's making retention marketers think a little bit different than they ever have in the past about how do
Yeah.
we email capture and what are we doing with that data and how are we building that out. And so I'm, really prioritizing with my retention marketing team on how do we think about it and how are we adjusting that so that when we do become a cookieless world, we're not just losing everything and we can actually still talk to our consumer in the right way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's also then like adding on to your first party data. So how do you actually enrich the data that you know that you have so that you can better understand like birthdays, age, family status, like all of those kinds of things so we can build those different audience sets and segmentations.
Without overwhelming your consumer and not asking them to fill out a 100-page survey on
Yeah.
everything.
Well, the question also is like, can you buy some of that data instead of having to do it all internal, right? And then we talk about this pretty regularly too. Of what does first party data even look like? Is it just email and SMS, or is it email, SMS, and app download? Right? Like, what? How do you actually engage with that? Someone was asking me today. The question I got asked was, "Hey, Samir, are you nervous that it's an election year? Like, what are you guys thinking about for Q4 holiday?" And I said, the one channel that is probably going to take the biggest beating is SMS because the total amount of election text messages you get during
Yeah.
like during the election year, and then the people that get frustrated are also not going to want to buy ecom stuff because they're not going to want to talk to it. So, uh, how do you reach people when you know that that channel is going to take a beating? So, is it email? Is it app downloads? Then how are you thinking about that? So, yeah, I think the challenge that you have shown is so much bigger than people realize, and it's great that you're thinking about it ahead of time.
Yeah, because I mean, as you noted, the noise, especially, I mean, it's not even election in general is going to create so much noise within the channels, but Olympics are coming up.
Yep.
And so it's going to be more costly to advertise, and it is going to be a influx of advertising this summer. And so this year in itself is very challenging, especially on top of like an already challenging macro environment that we're working with. So I think, that's a really great call out on the SMS piece of like people are going to be bombarded with things for quite a bit this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's not only the cost, it's the attention also. There's
Yeah.
only so much you can pay attention to. So, what do you do in that instance? So, um, I love that you said something around looking for how you're testing creative and how that kind of fits into your meta ecosystem. So, how have you started looking at creative testing, and where have you started down that journey, or what have you seen work so far?
Yeah. So we're working on a lot of journey mapping right now. And thinking about, as we kind of talked about, like the consumer isn't as it's not the same as it used to be, where you could very easily say top of funnel, mid funnel, and bottom of funnel, because
Yeah.
Advantage Plus is a really good example of it's everyone. And so we're building creative out into those pieces that we're kind of thinking through. Okay, if we're targeting if we really want to target this consumer that's focused on this seasonality, how are we building that into the creative rather than in the past saying, okay, well, I want to target a surfer. Let me go to interspace surfing and target that. It's basically how do we build that
Mhm.
into creative? So that's one way. The other way that we have really in the past almost 2 years really prioritized is content creators and whitelisting. Our brand is very visual. We also acknowledge that it's a higher price point, and so you need a little bit more social proof to make that purchase. And so content creators, we're very, stringent about who we work with. And we have some really great content creators that we have in our pipeline that really help tell our brand story in a way that you understand, like this use case is so versatile that it's
Mm.
not just I need to climb the highest mountain and I'm taking a Rumpl with me. It's I can sit out on my back patio, or I can go to a brewery, or I can do that hike and then I'm going to sit down at the end and I'm going to put my Rumpl on and I'm going to feel this moment of like relief, and Rumpl's a part of that. And so we're finding a lot of visualization with content creators that we're not necessarily able to get, with static creative.
Mhm.
And we have I always use this example. We have this incredible content creator. Her name's Tegan Maddox. She's a very niche content creator. And she did a polar plunge, and then she
Oh,
wrapped it
cool.
off afterwards. And it was just such a great way to showcase like this product kept me warm after I did something really cold and badass. And so that's how we're thinking about creative is one, we're journey mapping a little bit different than we had in the past. And we're kind of constantly journey mapping, where before it was like we could just write a journey map and it was more applicable over time. Whereas now we need to be thinking about it differently in content creators.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm so curious about when you guys are exploring audiences. So you talked about surfers and Tegan being kind of this niche creator as well. How do you identify what audiences? And are you still thinking about it as like interest level almost, and then but building creative around them? So I've got a hiking segment, I've got a surfer segment, or are you saying? Or do you just think about it more as like the outdoor segment? Trying to understand like how niche you guys are exploring versus how broad you go.
Yeah, we do both. So we do in our broad campaigns, we're more focused on like that general outdoorsman and building value props off of that. So if what are the use cases that somebody who goes outdoors is generally looking at? And then what is also the aspiration that maybe somebody who doesn't get outside as much as they want, but does get, want to go outside. What are they really looking for in this product? We are, constantly like we're almost a category creator, so we're kind of building a category around outdoor blankets because blankets in itself has been around for a long time, but there hasn't always been somebody focused on like this blanket is meant to go outdoors. And so we're telling story there. Then we do seasonality interest-based audiences. So that's where like the surfing comes in, where so we don't talk to surfers all year round, but we do talk to them, when it's very applicable to them as a person. Um, and then similarly, like we just kind of play around with audiences a lot, based on
Yeah,
like what product is, if we have a new collaboration and we kind of think about like who we want to target and who this could fit with, and then we test those different pieces pretty frequently.
that's really cool. Amazing. So I know we talked about obstacles. I'd love to talk about things that you're really excited about for the future. So, kind of as we're looking ahead for the year, I know performance media and AI are there, and that the election and Olympics are all obstacles for us. So, what are the things that you're looking forward to as we kind of go in through the year?
Yeah, I am really looking forward to improving our tech stack. I know
Nice.
that's kind of something that we have on and off done for the past few years, and we are like really in Q1, we took a deep audit of our tech stack and where the efficiencies were and what we wanted our tools to do, and then could our current tools do that? For example, we just migrated our review platform on Rumpl.com because our prior tool wasn't allowing us to do UGC. And as I noted with content creators, like we're seeing success with
Good
social
deal.
proof. And so we wanted to be able to allow consumers to see and post their blankets if they wanted to. And we weren't able to do that before. So I'm really excited about tech stack, especially kind of going back to this cookieless world, as I think that there's a lot of tools out there that are going to be able to help us kind of migrate and get through this a little bit. And so I'm excited to start exploring those and thinking about like where does the opportunity lie? But it's really across the board. I mean, it's audiences, it's creative, it's site development, and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome. And it's funny because I feel like tech stack is always a conversation that's happening. And it's
Mhm.
um, because it's really easy to end up with like a million tools and then having to revisit them and say, all right, well, they actually fulfill. And the worst is when you look at a tool and you're like, I'm using this one small piece and like none of this other
Yeah.
piece that they do. And so really understanding, do I need the rest of it? What's the value of that small piece? And kind of going around it. So I have a feeling that you are not alone in doing tech stack audits for yourself for the year, especially as brands are really looking for profitability, and tech stacks are a really easy way to leak um, dollars that could be true, just hit the bottom line for sure.
Yeah, you have, especially on Shopify, you have all these apps that do incredible things, but you might have 50 of them that cost $50 a month. And it's like,
Yeah.
as noted, you're using them for one thing. And could you be utilizing another app for the same thing and it's combined and it does multiple things. So that is definitely something we are prioritizing, is like, how do we consolidate tech stack too? Because we want that data to be clean and we want to actually get learnings from it. And so having, the back in the day when you used to have 3 SMS tools that technically probably weren't compliant, doing automated flows and campaign sends, and then, a email capture, SMS capture tool. It's like, those aren't talking to each other effectively. Like, how do we bring those together and think about them? And again, be compliant, because that's very important.
Yeah. Well, it also goes back to that brand historian piece, right? If it's in different platforms, then trying to kind of comb through everything to even figure out what you guys did last year versus where you are this year becomes that much harder. So,
And hot tip, export your GA,
yeah.
your universal analytics, because you're
Yeah, you got about 3 more months left.
talk about brand historian, export
Yes.
GA UA.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome. Thank you so much. So I have one final question for you. As you know, in your role as a marketing leader, what advice would you give a new marketing leader for their first 90 days? What would you tell them is the most important thing they need to start doing?
Yeah. I would say that, and this has been kind of applicable across all my roles, is don't just feel like the status quo has to be what it is. There are so
Mm.
many tools out there. There are so many channels out there. So test and learn. I mean, very quickly at my time at Rumpl, we onboarded our CTV platform Mountain, and it made an incredible impact during holiday. And if I had waited 90 days, we wouldn't have been onboarded it, and we wouldn't have been able to see those results. And so I think my recommendation is just like, as an expert in the field, like, make decisions, test things out. Don't just go with the status quo of, this is what they've been doing in the past, I don't want to rock the boat, because that's why they hired you.
Yeah.
And there's so much you can be doing, and there's so many tools that come out every day. And so, yeah, I would say, like, challenge what you're challenged, because that's why you're there.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Ashlee, for joining us. If someone wants to find you online, where can people go to learn more about you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Ashlee Anderson. I think my handle is Anderson Ash 3. So yeah, follow me. I love connecting with people. I love networking. And I feel like there's so much we can all learn from each other. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy the show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.